Okay, so this is the quiz that you just had, and I honestly don't get very many of these quizzes like this, but this is pretty much a digital quiz for you. And the number one, uh, there was a pattern here, and it's either A or D, and it goes pretty much. I can't draw down here, but it's A or D, and then not B or not E, and it basically is sort of like it follows A or D. I can mark on this, okay, but anyway, it's pretty much A or D, and if you did the little dots down through, that would help a lot, and that was what I was kind of looking for. But over here, there's a break, and it goes a little bit further, and then it goes like this. I think it goes like that. I'm not sure exactly, but there's a little bit of a break. And all I was looking for was that break. If you didn't do that, or if you didn't do anything, I took off, I think, 2 or 4 points based on what I considered I don't know. Anyway, I took off a few points. It's 20 points is a perfect score. So anyway, I was looking for something in that area. So now uh, we write this one right here, A or D, and B naught or E naught, and C is equal to F. So A or D and B naught or E naught and C. And if you take the naught of that whole thing, you get F naught, which would be A naught and D naught ORed with B and E, ORed with not of, excuse me, not of, not of C, equal to F naught. Okay, and the way to do that in ladder is A or D, so it'd be A naught and D naught. It was ANDed, now it is ORed with B. Was ORed, now it is ANDed with E. ANDed with C, so it is now ORed with C naught. And that would give me F naught. All right, enough on that one. Draw the FBD of number 3, and so I didn't see very many people actually doing it with the proper gates, but an OR is a block with a greater than equal to 1. That's an OR. Then AND is with a little ampersand in there. And the not would be a bubble. So basically, so how would you do this? Then A or D, ANDed with, so this would be A or D. So you would use A or D greater than equal to 1. And then you have an output of that, which should be that right here. ANDed with the not of B and E, which should be greater than equal to 1. So that would be an OR of those two. ANDed with C. So then you would have a block that would come down like this. And this would be an AND block, an output of F. So that would be how I would do it. Okay, I gave a lot of credit for that, anybody that did anything close. Now these, I didn't look very closely, but if you did them, I gave you credit for them. And I tried to just glance at them. I'm not gonna tell you that if you didn't get taken off, that you got it right for number 4, but you know, I wanted you to have to work some of these. So basically, I'll work them now, and if you say, well, I missed one or whatever, don't tell me, you got credit for it if you didn't. If it isn't marked off, you got credit for it. So the knot of, okay, so the goal here is to get the bar across the single element, so it's A, B, not, and then C or D, parenthesis with a bar across everything. So you can break this at A, B not, excuse me. Say again? I didn't understand. R over D. Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right, so if I break this here, it's A, B not, not, or C or D not, not. So I break it right there and I do that. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Now I break this. This is equal to A or B, A naught or B. And then this one is or, bring the or down, C naught and D. So that would be the answer to that one. And you can do the rest of these. I'm not going to do every one of these, but I want you to be able to do this kind of, be able to take the knot of something, all right? So does anybody want me to do the rest of them? Do one more. That's A, B, it's A, B, and C, D, or E, F. Okay, with a bar over the whole thing. So I break it right here first is equal to A, B, not, or C, D, or E, F, parenthesis, not. Now I break this and it's A not, or B not, or. Now I break this, it is C, D not, and E, F not. So I break this again, it's C not or D not, parenthesis, anded with E not or F not. Okay, now that would be A not or B not or that. Not very much fun, but it works, and you can kind of see how that goes. Okay, so now number 5. So this one is, I tried to give you a smattering of every kind of thing that I could possibly think of that I would ever give on a test. And I've given parts or pieces of all of these things on tests at one time or another in this course. So I want you to kind of be prepared for any of these. That's why this test was a real hodgepodge of different things. So that's why on this quiz you got a lot of stuff, because I wanted you to be kind of aware of any of this is live, okay? So now I have this one, 0010, 1001, 1010, 1000, minus this second one, which is, now what would be the, so I have to subtract this. So what would be the right way to do it? So it would be 0, 0, 0, 0, lots of zeros, 0, 1, but now I start flipping them. So from this point on, I flip them. And it would be 0, 1, and then 1, 1, 0, 0, and then 0, 1, 1, 1. Now, is that correct? Let's look and see. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. So now you add 0 and 0, 0, 0 and 0, 0, 0 and 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, carry the 1, 1, 0, carry the 1, 1, carry the 1, 0, carry 1. Now there's a 1 here, and then we get a 0, 0, 0, 0. So we've got that number, and that should be a, not very pretty, but that's 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. So it should be your right answer. Is that right? Hopefully. Any questions, any comments? Does everybody have enough digital? That's not the whole course, obviously, but that's the part that you kind of need in order to move forward in this course. So again, I want you to be a little aware of all these various techniques. And if people say, I don't understand anything about De Morgan, now you can't say that. You've been demorganized. You got a little bit of all this stuff. So again, it's not like you're getting a whole course, but you're getting enough that you can actually work at and do something. Okay, so that's that. Now, I'm going to go over and I'm going to look at some things. I'm going to check and see an email here because I sent this to myself just about an hour ago. I'm going to see if I got it. If I did, great. If I didn't, well, no. We just been working on, yeah, didn't make it. Well, maybe it did. Maybe let me see. No, I didn't get it. Didn't get it. So I did not. Didn't come through. So I'm just going to have to tell you the one part that you might have to do separately, and I'll write it out for you. But it's not a big deal. But I'm going to add it to the. I'm going to add it anyway. Let's go back, and I want to talk to you about this right in here. So this is the Rubik's Cube project. Is kind of the latest and greatest. And when we went to version, this is Siemens. Now we're talking just about Siemens programming. And Allen Bradley is pretty much the static. It's basically stayed the same, but Siemens has changed pretty dramatically over the last year. And we did not catch on to this. I'll be blunt, I didn't catch on to this until we did the Rubik's project. And at that point in time, at the capstone thing last year in the spring of 25, we had some groups come in and show their ability to do the Rubik's Cube, and the Rossford group came in and said, we can't get this to work. And what I said was, oh, of course it works. And it took me back because they were right. There was a problem, and I had no idea what the problem was. And it came about because we had been using up until that time version 16 of the software. And all of a sudden we were thrust into version 19, and now we're thrust into version 20 of the software. And this is what you're going to be working with this semester. So version 20 of the software is what you're going to be working with. So what I did was I went back through eventually and caught on to what they were saying, and I put a lot of the help screens here for Siemens. And it's at the beginning of the text for the Rubik's Cube project. It's the text that helps going with the Rubik's Cube. And I'm going to show you some of the things that go along with this. Now, this part right here is when you first go into creating a project with Siemens today, okay? You're asked to do a bunch of things that you weren't asked before, and this has to do with passwords. So you're going to deny everything. Here, uncheck the protects the PLC data, uncheck that box, okay? Here, you uncheck this box right there, okay? And these are on page, starting on page 5 of the text that goes along with the Rubik's Cube project. Now, that's the only place I put this. So again, I don't apologize for it, but please do these things. When you get to this point, remember that the Rubik's Cube project, the book that goes along with it, the beginning of that, has all these things that are helps. Okay, and that's not in the old videos. There's no old video that does all this stuff. So again, you have to do this as well. Choose the access level, and you click here, full access, parenthesis, no protection. This is on page 7 of the text that goes with the Rubik's Cube project. Okay? And then here, you just click finish. Now, what does this do? It says, if you accidentally did put in a password, it's not the end of the world. We have a fix for it. It's not a pretty fix, but we can get rid of it. But what you're doing is you're loading a password into the program controller that then only allows you access to that program controller with that password, which isn't right because there's how many people in this room? There's 60 people taking this course, 61, 62 people taking this course. Every one of you has a right to go up to any program controller in the 3 rooms that we have program controllers and be able to access them. So this password idea, as good as it sounds for an industry where you want to protect something from being overwritten by some other person or whatever, in this instance is the exact opposite. So please do not ignore this. Please do not plow through and put a password in to your program controller. Please, I'm asking you very honestly, do not do that. And if you do, I have a fix for it, but I don't want to have to. I do not want to be running around or have somebody running around providing this fix. It's not fair to anybody that that happens. So that's what, you know, I'm not going to get upset with you as an individual if I find out you did it, but I'm just going to say, please don't do that, okay? Now, here, and I'm going to go through this with you again, but here is the program controller. This little thing right here is how you connect to the computer. It's an Ethernet port, okay? Now, there's 2 styles of Siemens processors. There's 1214 processors and 1215 processors. This has 1 port. This one has 2 ports. Okay? Now, which one's better? I don't care. Now, with the Rubik's Cube people, they're doing 2 ports. It doesn't really matter, but we're moving. What Siemens did was, when they first brought out these little processors, they brought out the 1214. And then they found out that people were not happy with just 1 port. So they put in an extra port and they did some other stuff and they jazzed it up. Now they have now brought out a second version of the 1215, which is called version 2. We don't have version 2. We have version 1 of this guy, okay? So when you look at the software, you're going to be able to veer off to the side and say, do we use version 1 or version 2 of the 1215? You're using version 1, not version 2. I haven't even seen the version 2 of this product, but it looks the same as this pretty much, but it's a little different looking, but it's different. Now, if you're not confused already, when we did the suitcase, I did not buy the suitcase PLCs, okay? Please do not blame me for buying something that we could buy for $300, $200, $400 that they spent like $20,000 on. Please don't blame me for that. But it's just what it is, and we're okay with that, okay? It's there. We're not going to send them back, and we're going to use them. But those are 1212s, okay? So now you got 3 versions of processor. And within these versions of processors, you have multiple firmware versions, okay? And you've got to get all those right in order to get this to work. And also with some of them, you have extra cards. Like you can have a little card put right there. And some of them have one in and some of them don't. So you have to add those cards as well. And I'll show you how that's done in a minute. So you have to basically look on this right down in here and look and see which one of these, if it's any one of the ones out on a flat board, not within the suitcase, but out on a flat board, it's one of these 2. And if it's got 2 Ethernet ports, it's the 1215. If it's got 1 Ethernet port, it's 1214. But within the 1214, you have version 30, version 31, and version 40 firmware. Congratulations. Now you're almost there, okay? But in these versions of the software, you have also firmware revision levels. You have 4.0, 4.1, 4.2, up through 4.7. Are you confused yet? And you've got to get the right one. This is called Go Fish. At times it feels like that. Other times you can actually get it when you're compiling it and trying to download. It'll tell you the actual one that you're trying to download to. Now, sometimes I've seen that it does, and sometimes the software does not tell you which one it is. Most of the ones that we have are 4.2 or 4.4. I'll give you a clue. Most of the ones that we have are 4.2 or 4.4 of either of these, this one or this one. It's 4.2 or 4.4. You take that to the bank, okay? But you look up in here and you see it's a 30, it's a 31, or it's a 40. If it's a 40, you've got to go fish. If it's a 30 or 31, it's 2.2 and you're done. It will not allow you to do any other version, so you'll see that in a minute. And the one that I had that I was going to bring, that as on my way in, I said, Ted, you got to bring a power strip, and I don't have a power. I do have a power strip, but I didn't think about bringing it tonight. But there's just not enough room here to do all that. But I wanted to tell you that to get this right, you have to look at all these parts and pieces. Okay, so anyway, now we also have an Ethernet address, and so at one time we put everything, as they say, everything went to the wall. What does that mean? Everything had a dedicated IP address, and everything went to a specific IP address that was assigned by the university. Not anymore, thank goodness, okay? So there's a dongle hanging off of your program, off of your PC, okay? Its address is 192.168, Ted, 0.2, okay? By definition, that's what it is. Now, when you bring up your PLC, it tries to assign it to 192.168, 0, and 1. This is the PLC. This is the PC. We ask you to change this to an 03. Now, it is not necessary that you do that, but we ask you to do that. Why? Because we want to stay away from 01. We'd like to keep that, we'd like to make you change to 03, okay? That's the Siemens, what we want to call the Siemens PLC address, okay? And we use 04 for the Allen Bradley access. And we used to say 05 for the HMI, but we don't anymore, okay? We don't anymore. And the reason being, with version 20, they make the IP address of here also the HMI address. That was a huge change. So if you've taken a course from me before, I tell you to go to 05, and now instead of going to 05, you stay at 02. Okay? You're not done. There's more to this even yet. Okay, so this is how you set up the IP address. And I want to show you how that's done in a minute. I'll actually do this for you. So here is the controller. You pick the controller, and then you start it up and you start programming. Okay, so that's that part of it. Now, this is the HMI. You have a choice in the HMI. It's not in the documentation, but you can do either the basic HMI or you can use the comfort panel. Okay? The reason being, all the older stuff that we've done has been with the student version of the software. But now we have the professional version of the software, which allows you to use the more sophisticated HMI panels. We'll talk more about that later. I'm not going to get into what the comfort panel can do for you, but it is more than the basic panel. And all my stuff is just with basic panels. But if you actually work in programming of HMI, you will use the sophistication of the higher level panels a lot. So again, we just get our toe in the water with the HMI panel, but you may venture off into this if you want to, okay? But again, we have coming soon, like today or tomorrow, we will have the professional version on all the machines. That's the first time we've ever had that, okay? And I know it doesn't mean much to you, but it livens up everything that you can do with Siemens. Everything that's possible with Siemens is available to you in this course, right? So this is the HMI screens. It's a bunch of hit next, done. And the only difference between now and what we did in the past was, now you get this picture here, and you click from here to here, and you drag it over so that you have a picture that looks like that. But you also have to click on the second tab, and then you do it again. You go from here to here, and you get a picture that looks like this. Again, this is new. This is not in any of the videos except the ones for the Rubik's project. The Rubik's project has all this in there. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. It's all in that video. It's on those videos. But if you look at my old videos, it's not there because it didn't have to be done. Okay? So you got to get this color, and then you get this color, and then you're good to go. Now that ties the two together. Now this other issue of certificates is something that sometimes is important, sometimes isn't. But as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of not a big deal, except when you download from one of my programs. If you download one of my programs, and then the first thing you do is you compile and try to download the PLC program. It will not allow you to download the program to the PLC if the certificate for the PLC and the HMI are not the same date. So the order for, if you get a program that you get from me or you get from somebody else, and it's not today's date, so you get a program, download of a program, because of certificates, you have to compile the PLC, compile the HMI, and then download the PLC. It will not work if you don't do it in that order. Period. End of story. Because of certificates, because they want you to have a certificate developed on that day. Okay? Here is another one. Oh, this is fun. This is also required one time. So you go to set PGPC interface, okay? And if you don't know what that is, lower left-hand corner, just set go to your control panel, and then set PGPC interface, okay? Now, here is that icon for set PGPC interface. You have to go over here and click on large icons, okay, and then you'll get this. Then you come to this screen right here, and there will be something with 3 of them. I can't guarantee what this is going to say, but there will be one of them that has 3, okay? The first one will be highlighted. You do not want that one. You want the third one highlighted. Then click OK. You can do this not being an administrator, and you only have to do this once. Okay? Now, another thing you have to do, and I was looking, I thought I might be able to do this, and I have not put this on in this. I'm going to put what I'm going to tell you now into this structure in this book, but it is not there yet. We just found this out. So under Automation License Manager, which is this thing right here. Okay, this is Automation License Manager. So when you first click on Siemens, you're going to click on TIA Portal version 20. TIA Portal version 20. And it's going to let you go a little ways, and it's going to say, it may say, I'm not sure, you have a licensing issue, okay? If it does, you do the following. So basically, you go to the Automation License Manager, which is this guy's right here, okay? You click on it, and then under Edit, Connect Computer. Okay, I'm going to write this over to the side. Under Edit, Connect Computer. Connect Computer. Then you're going to get a screen. I can't get that screen, but you're going to get I'm not going to try to get that screen, but you're going to type in, you're going to connect your license. What you want to do is you want to get a license from the server, and the license from the server is at this address, EECS SIEMENS dot UTAD .utoledo.edu. Then you, under Connect Computer, you do this. Okay, you type that in there. And then when you click Enter, this pops up, but you also have to check these boxes. Okay? You have to check these boxes at the bottom. These boxes have to be checked. Then hit OK. And you should be able to, from that point forward, as far as I know, forever, be able to use that computer with the appropriate license. Okay, so you'll have to do that once. But you have to do it once. Okay, so it'll be on the video. Later on, I'll put this into I've got a screenshot of this, but I don't have the screenshot into the verbiage in the book yet, but I will get it into the book. So now, you now know that there is a little book. There is a book of things to do, maybe, at least to check on, and these things in yellow were other things that the Siemens people told me, if you can't get, the hardest part about all this stuff is to get the PLC and the HMI to work together, to talk back and forth, okay? Because we're using a simulation of the HMI. We're not actually, an HMI screen out on a factory floor, we don't have. We're not going to spend the money. That's why they make this hard, because they want you to spend the money on those. How do they make money at Siemens? They sell product, right? They sell a lot of product. Okay? They're the, by the way, Siemens is the biggest electrical controls company in the world by far. Who's next? ABB, Assea Brown Boveri. Way back in the pack is Rockwell and other people, but the biggest in the world is Siemens, and then a distant second is ABB, and then you find people like Schneider, which is the French. So you've got the Germans, the Swiss, and then the French. Now, how did that happen? 50s, 60s, 70s, the United States was very comfortable in its own shell. We sold and bought within the United States, good to go, right? Didn't make a lot of inroads in the rest of the world, okay? We considered a wall at the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, and that was not a good move to make, because as we were doing that, what were the Germans and the French and the Swedish doing? Selling to the world. So if you go into a store in some country, you pick the name, what are you going to find first on the shelf? Siemens. What are you going to find next? Schneider or ABB. So that's why they're the biggest, because they made inroads 70s, 80s, 90s. Did everybody follow that? Okay. It's not a hard story to figure out, but that's why they're the biggest. And it's not, you know, it's not that they're the best. I'm not saying that they're the best, but they're the biggest, okay? But anyway, this is some of the other stuff that the Siemens guy told me that you might want to check up on. And I didn't really get into it, but I took his stuff and I said, okay, that's good. There's some more. There's some more. Okay, so now I'm going to go down and I'm going to actually start a project. So now I'm walking through but I cannot connect. I'm just going to build this stuff for you. So I'm now into and I'm going to do the hot dog project, or I'm going to start the hot dog project. I'm going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to do a little bit of it. So I click on TIA Portal version 20, and my software works. I've had this up and running for a good 6 months, version 20. By the way, I have version 18, I have version 19, I have version 20, all three. If anybody wants to look at any of those other versions for any reason, why, I don't know, but okay, so that's neither here nor there. But anyway, create a new project. So you want to call it XYZ, you can call it project number 39. That's the project that I'm on right now. You come over here and click create. Easy? Yep. Now this part of it is in the videos. So you can now look at the video that is with the Rubik's project, video 0 or pre-week week 1 or week 1. And this is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm doing exactly what they're doing, or pretty much, except I'm not going to connect. Okay. Now you come over here in the lower left-hand corner and click on Project View. Get out of this. This is called the portal view. I get out of this as soon as I can, and I come to the view that I'm comfortable with, which is this view right here. Okay, now come over here and just say click new, add new device. Double click. Let it spin. I come over here. I can pick a controller or an HMI or a system. Now, what kind of things can you build for a system? I don't know. You can put variable frequency drives in there. You can put other things in there. I don't know what they've got. Maybe they got a robot. I have no clue, but they've got other stuff. So they got PLCs, they've got HMI panels, and they've got other stuff. So I'm going to click on controllers, and now we only have the little guy, that one right there, and then you hit on that. Now you can come down here, and this is your 1212 DC, DC, DC. That's the one in the suitcase. And the DC, DC, DC means DC in, DC out, and DC supply. So basically everything is DC 24 volts. Okay, you can get it in other flavors as well. Relay would be AC would be 110. Relay would be open and closure contacts. So you can get all different types, but we stick with DC, DC, DC. That's all we got. Everything's 24 volts. You can't get hurt. I'll put it this way: nobody's been hurt yet. We've had some interesting times, but nobody's ever been hurt. Nobody's ever been, nothing. Anyway, I shouldn't say that because something will happen, but just keep on going. So this is the one here that we usually use. This is the one with the single port. And these are the three flavors: the 30, the 31, and the 40. This is the one we use the most of them. But it only has one port. And this is the one that is the one with the two ports right down here. And this we use the second one of these two. So do you want to do a 1214 or a 1215? I'm going to do a 1214 because that's the one we got the most of. So here, notice what they say. You can automatically get 4.7, but we don't usually use 4.7. We usually use 4.2 or 4.4. So this is go fish. But usually 4.2 or 4.4 is the right answer here. So let's do 4.2. Click OK, and let it spin. And now you created a PLC on your screen. Okay. Sometimes there's nothing here in this little box. Sometimes there is, and sometimes you have to look. Most of the time they're all signal boards, but most of the time it's the analog output card. If there is something in this part right here, it says AQ, analog output. On this little card, it says AQ. Sometimes it's a DI, and it's a 5-volt DI. This one, it can be this, but most of the time it's this one down here, okay? So most of the time it's this one, you drag it over, plop, done. Come down here, click on the little green thing, and you change that to a what? From a 1 to a 3, okay? Hit enter. Now I've got my 192.168.0.3 address assigned. And then I come back over here and I click on program blocks. Main, OB1. Okay, and I start programming. This is my programming area. And I can do this, bring stuff down, click on it, or I can just click on it. So basically, now I can type in a name, call it XYZ. And notice what happens. When I do that, it has a little red underneath it. So you now have to say right click, define tag. Now you get a choice. Here's where it's critical. You do not say local temp. You click on this and say global memory. Please say global memory. This is the assigning of the house of cards, the M-bit card deck. That's what this is. Now notice what it did. It automatically comes up with a word and it's a byte.bit address. Byte 0, bit 0, okay? And it automatically assigns that. If you want to change it to something else, you can. And you say it's a Boolean because a contact is a 1 or a 0, which is a bool. You click define. Now let's say, for whatever reason, you didn't do that. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring another one down here. Let's bring it on my close. And when it turns green, you let go, okay? Well, you let it go there. Now if you do that and you don't like it, you got to get rid of it. You got to delete that. So you got to come down and delete that. Now I'm going to show you what happens if you make a mistake. I'm going to show you let's just call this mistake. Okay, I'll just use the word mistake. Now right click on it and I define tag and I hit local temp. Click. Okay, so I made a mistake and it's got a pound sign in front of it. The key to this is it's a pound sign in front of it, right? So how do I get rid of this name? From now on, if I use the word mistake, it's going to assign this bit, which is a local variable, what is this about this bit that I don't like? What is it about the bit mistake that is not good? I talked about it the other night. The Drew Barrymore 51st dates. At the end of the scan, who am I? What am I doing? Remember that? Remember the analogy to saying, what does it do at the end? It goes to 0. At the end of the scan, it goes to 0. Now, is that something you can live with? If it is, go for it. If it isn't, you've got to go back and delete that name, and I'll show you where that name exists. It exists up at the top up there in that little area of this OB, and it's assigned up here, and you got to get rid of it. It's not in the tag database. It's up here. Okay, so you got to get rid of it. Now you come up here, and what is it? It's right there, right? So you come over here, right click, delete, and you're back in business. Okay, now you can come back down here and retype this, and Now I can say, get rid of the pound sign, okay? So I'm going to say, let's just say good, okay? Now instead of bad, now I say right click, okay, define tag. Instead of local, it's global. Now look what happens. It rolls to the next bit in the M database at 0.1. So it rolls. Define, good to go. Now everybody follow that? It's now a good bit that will last forever. It will not go away. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Stay away from local variables unless you're passing something from up here down to here, and at that point in time, you're fine. If it's from here to here in your program, not a problem. But if it's from here and it's going to wrap around and you've got to keep it going for multiple scans, it'll go away. So you can't do that. Okay, enough on that. Now, that gets you started with programming. I'm not going to go down into any depth with the programming because I want you to understand that this is kind of the anyway. The other thing that you got to do here is you've got to go down up here, add a device, click on an HMI. And now I've always done the basic panels, but again, the panel that you have in the lab, there's a few of them laying around, they're 6-inch panels. And what's wrong with a 6-inch panel? Not much space for a bunch of buttons. So is there any reason why you can't use a bigger panel? You can get up to a 15-inch display if you want to. The 15-inch display is kind of big. 10-inch display is a little bit, I think 10 inches is about ideal. It's bigger than a 6-inch. It's not, it doesn't take up the whole screen, but you can put a lot of stuff on a 10-inch display, okay? So that's about the sweet spot for me. But you decide what you want to do about this, but I wouldn't pick a 6-inch panel because you run out of room. You may run out of room. How's that? You may not, but anyway. So I usually pick a 10-inch display or something like that. Now here you go for the better one. Okay. Now you click this, and you click this. You click next. And what's it going to do? It's just going to build a panel for you. It's going to put over here on the left-hand side. It's going to call it HMI1 or whatever. Now there's your panel. There's your panel, and there's a root screen. And I do not like the root screen. Number of reasons, but I'll tell you why. It puts stuff on there that I don't want. So I don't want all that junk. So I say add a screen. And you get a clean screen. Now what do you do with the root screen? You delete it, okay? And you also go up here and in the runtime settings for your screens, you say, where do I start up and how do I start up? And you answer the red. You say, screen 1. I want to start up on screen 1. I don't want to start up on a screen that I just deleted. So now you've got that fixed. There's another thing you need to fix here, and it is called a template. And it's right down here under screen management. Usually you want to get rid of any templates that might be in there. Template 1, delete. I don't know what template 1 is for, but it always causes an error, so I always just get rid of it and be done with it, okay? You decide if you want template 1. If you want template 1, go for it. I usually delete it because I don't like extra things I don't want, whatever. Now, so this is a screen, right? Screen 1. Now what am I going to put on screen 1? I'm going to put a button. I'm going to put a light. Here's a light. Okay, whatever. Now here's one of the most interesting things of this whole, I think this is one of the most interesting parts of this whole thing. Okay, right here, click on this. Okay, you click on it and it gets the little highlight, right? Now you come down here under properties and you say event. You can change the text in here if you want. You can put text above it, you can do whatever. But here is press, add a function. Now I start set, I just type in SE, and watch what happens. Set bit while key pressed. Remember that. Set bit while key pressed. Okay? What does that mean? As long as my finger or the mouse is pressing on that button on that screen, a 1 is going over to the PLC. It's setting a 1 as long as the key is pressed. When you lift your finger off or you take your finger off the mouse, what happens? It goes back to a 0, which is exactly what a button does. Set bit while key pressed. Easiest thing in the world, but who would have ever thought? Set bit while key pressed. Under press, set bit while key pressed, get the red thing. What are you going to do here? Ah, now you got to go find it. You got to find the bit that you said. Now, do you remember the bit that I said? I don't, but you go into PLC tags, you come down here, and you go find it. So you go find, under the PLC tags, you expand this default tag database. There, all things is XYZ, okay? And I found it. Now you've tied the bit XYZ in the PLC program to that button, and as long as you push the button on the screen, that livens that bit up and it makes it a 1, and it passes power. Okay, that's it. What else we got to do here? Well, we got to make a light, right? So you got to make a light off of something. So what? It wasn't the word mistake. It was, what was the word we used? Good. Thank you. I can't. So now you go under property. You highlight this, properties. Okay, click on this, Ted. Go to properties. Under animation, display, expand, add new animation. You can make it move, but we want to look at the visibility of, not the visibility, but the appearance of it. Okay, so the name of the bit is good. So we're going to do good here. Under PLC tags, again, default tag database, go down and find the word good. Now, again, if I had the PLC here, I could actually make this work. I made this work today earlier on, but it's okay now. But now look what it does now as you do this. We're going to come down here and I'm going to make this a little bit higher so I can, okay, see why a big screen is good to have, because you can, you get a lot of stuff going on this screen and you need to, I have to keep moving things around in order to get it. But under appearance, click appear. Now look what happens. When that bit is a 0, it looks what color? White with a black ring. Okay, so when it is a 1, what is the color? Let's go find it. Let's go find a good color. So we go down here and say, okay, what color do you want? Red. Very good. That's a good one. Okay, so when it's off, it's white. When it's on, it's red. Okay, so in the PLC, when that bit turns on, it turns red on the screen. Now you're an expert. You can make an input and an output, go to an HMI, and you're good to go. All right? Now, a lot of this stuff is on the videos. I'm not trying to tell you that anything tonight, other than these first few pages of that book, and then that one thing about the licensing, those are all really new. And again, now I'm going to show you here, this is also in the videos of the Rubik's Cube project are the ones that you should be listening to as you do some of these early labs with Siemens. With Alan Bradley, you don't need that. You can go back to the ones the old YouTube videos, and they work just fine. But this has changed with Siemens, and this is part of it, okay? So now you got this working. Now you compile both of them. Where's the compile button? It's right up here, right? Right there, right? So you click the compile button, and you watch it go. Hopefully no errors. Click the compile button. Okay, no errors. Any questions so far? Now look what happens up here when you click that compile button. What livened up? That little guy right there. That starts the simulation. Okay, so when you click that button, Off to the right, you create another window, another application that actually runs a simulation. Okay, so you will see not this window, but you will see another window that looks like this, but it actually looks like the panel. And you run it. You run this off to the one side, and you run your HMI off to this side. And you actually, at this point in time, you have so you have your logic over here, and you have your window with your HMI over here. And it's live, and it works. Click over here, the bit turns on in the PLC. And you see the light turn on, and then it does whatever, okay? Now I made a mistake in that it's a coil that actually turns on. Good, I made as a contact. I should have made it a coil. Coils are what turn on bulbs or light bulbs or lights, okay? So the bit can either be a contact or a coil, but a coil is what actually turns on a light. So I made a mistake there when I was doing that, but you can understand, make a coil on the right-hand side, and then that bit sets a light on your panel. It tells that it's running or whatever. All right, so we're ready. You can do the Allen Bradley by listening to the videos, the older videos. You can now do the Siemens by listening to the videos of the Rubik's Cube project and the help screens that are at the beginning of the videos for the Rubik's project, and that one thing that ties the automation license manager to the license manager. Okay, so again, the book is pretty good. The helps at the beginning of that book are really good. They're up to date. They're accurate. The only one that's missing is that automation license manager, and I'm going to put that in there today. Okay. Any questions so far? Well, I got a few more minutes, not a lot, but what I can maybe just talk just a little bit about chapter 5. I'm just going to give you an overview of what's in the rest of the book, okay? So chapter 5, you may not have any clue what's in this book, and you may say, he's just talking, like he's got all this stuff and it's so great, and it's not really all that great. And I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying this is what this book has in it, and it's my own book. I didn't pattern it after somebody else's book, but chapter 5 is combinational logic. It's ands and ors, okay? We're talking about and or logic. Chapter 6 is sequential logic. And that is the seal circuit that you did when you wired your relay, and it's set reset logic, okay? And then how to use that, and also one-shots or edge triggering. Chapter 7 is on timers and counters. When they made PLCs, they basically made 3 things that they had to do. They had to do relays, timers, and counters. Those 3 things they had to make in the PLC. So chapter 7 brings in the other 2 things that from day one they had to make the PLC be able to do. Chapter 8 is math. Chapter 9 is how to make a control panel. You think, what on earth is he going to try to make us do? How many of you think you're going to waltz through and never have to make a control panel? If you become a controls engineer, how many of you think you'll never have to design the steel to actually go along with the program that you're going to create. How many of you think you're never going to have to do that? You will, okay? It's just part of life. So you will, or somebody will, have to design these panels, all right? It's steel, and it's all the other things that go along with it, but somebody's going to have to design that and get it built and make it work. So that's what, have you ever thought about that? No, never thought about that. Are you scared to death of doing that? Probably. Well, here's some pointers to get you started down that path, okay? Think about this, think about this, think about this, think about this. It's part of the job, and it cannot be ignored. So you cannot just say, oh, I can't do that. You've got to, okay? Chapter 10 is about safety, sensors, anything outside the panel. So if you didn't talk about it in chapter 9, you talk about it in chapter 10. So this is the how do you interface the real world, all kinds of stuff. It just throws the book at all. Oh, did you think about? Nope, never thought about that. Oh, what do you think about? Nope, never thought about that. Everything else that you can possibly think about in controls that has nothing to do with, a little bit to do with programming, but mostly to do with other things you have to look forward to, like read the chapter and you'll start seeing it's just a hodgepodge of every kind of thing you might think about. Okay, chapter number 11, back to programming. Okay, so chapter number 11 is back to programming. Of sequential operations. Okay, chapter 12 is a chapter on instructions that it's like your appendix. You don't need it anymore, but at one time people probably needed an appendix. This is instructions that are strange, but had to be there because there are things in a factory that you have to do, but you can't write them easily with a PLC program. They don't fit with ladder logic, but you have to do this. You have to do this thing, but how do you do this thing? Well, we talk about some of those. Okay, these are, you might call them specialty instructions. All right, just oddball things that, oh, I never thought about that, but they're specialty instructions. Chapter 13 is on matrix manipulation. Chapter 14 is on function blocks. Chapter 15, we finally get around to talking about HMI, officially talking about HMI, although we talked about it tonight. Okay, we talked about it about half the time tonight, but we officially talk about it back in chapter 15. Chapter 16 is on communications. This talking to that talking to something else. By the way, why do we have to do that? Because how big is a project? I don't know. You can't build a program controller big enough to handle the whole project. So you have to have them communicating with each other. Does everybody follow that? So you have to be able to tie them together. And that's what that chapter is about. Chapter 17 is about motion. Chapter 18 is about timing, and of the CPU. Okay, CPU. How do you structure the timing? Chapter 19 is on PID. Chapter 20 is on safety. Chapter 21 is on AI. Chapter 22 is on typing to a robot. Chapter 3 is on the other brothers, the other types of program controllers you can have. And I talk about the codices. I haven't really written this chapter yet, but it will be a chapter on codices. Codices is the universal free PLC that you can run on a Raspberry Pi. Okay, and they've got all the bells and whistles that all the other people have. Supposedly, I have not used it that much. I've sent a few groups off to using Codices, but Codices is something that Siemens, Allen Bradley, and everybody are scared to death of because it's kind of like the generic brand. Okay? I don't understand it that well, but it's there and you need to know about it. So it's kind of the other brother. And that's what I call it, the other brother chapter. So that's my story. Any questions anybody's got? I don't know if I'm going to have time to dump a quiz off this weekend or not. I'm going to be traveling and I do not know. So hopefully you will get one. If you don't, consider it your lucky day. Start doing these projects. Did all those people get their things back? Did everybody get their, is what's left there? Okay, so you're dismissed. If you have any questions, I'll see you. Thank you.